Hello, Dana here. I'm here to share with you some book recommendations for this summer. So I have some of my favorite books that I've read before, which I feel like are summer reads. And then I have a pile of books which are from my own to be read list for the summer. We've got some romantic fiction, some crime fiction, a bit of a mix, but they're all fiction. I am going to start with books that I love, that I've read already. And then towards the end is when we will get into my summer to be read list. Also, I feel like my voice doesn't sound like my own just now. It sounds like there's a frog in my throat, but there isn't. Sorry about that. Anyway, okay, the first book now. Technically, I can't recommend this because I haven't finished it. I'm in the process of reading it right now, but I really am enjoying it. It's Malibu Rising by Jenkins Reid. I feel like this was really big either last year or it could have been the year before, but I think it was last year. I am probably a third of the way through this so far, but I love it. The main storyline is that Nina Riva is hosting a party with her siblings. They host this party every year. It's like the biggest party of the year. Everyone wants to be invited, everyone wants to go. It's where cool things happen. And the party gets a bit crazy and the house is set on fire. I've not gotten that far yet. That's just what it tells you in the blurb. I just really like the way that Jenkins Reid writes. I read another couple of her books very recently and I've enjoyed them all. Okay, so my next summer book recommendation, it makes sense to do this one now because this is also by Jenkins Reid. It's called After I Do. So I just finished this, I think this was the last book I finished before starting Malibu Rising. This is about a couple called Lauren and Ryan, and they're married, but they decide one day, like, what are we doing here? We actually hate each other. Neither of us are having fun. Let's take a break. And it follows Lauren through the duration of the break and follows her thoughts and feelings. Okay, next, this is one of the best books I've ever read. I loved it. So this is How to Kill Your Family by Mackie. This book is also one that evokes a lot of reactions. Like whenever I was reading this in public, people would be like, oh, that's some title for a book. And I'd be like, yeah, sure is. But this is brilliant. It's so funny. It's a very strong female lead character, and as much as she's doing terrible things, you can't help but just be quite fond of her. So this book is about a girl called Grace, and she was raised without a father. Her dad's basically like a shitty person, you come to learn, and her mum dies when she's young, and she basically decides when she's an adult, she's like, I've been wronged too many times. I want revenge, and so what better way to get revenge than start killing all the family members who she feels have wronged her. And so she does. She just starts murdering them all. She's very creative, very witty. Yeah, this is the perfect mix of being like dark and twisty, but there's so much humor injected into it that it's like not a difficult read. Okay, the next summer book recommendation I have is Falling by Newman. If you're scared of flying, please stay away from this book at all costs because it will only worsen your fear of flying. I'm a very confident, happy flyer. I love to fly, so not a drama. I loved this book. So suspenseful and just like, very good book if you ask me. For the first time in my life, I went on Goodreads to see what other people had to say about this, and people didn't like it. And I've never been on Goodreads before, and I'm never going on it again because I was like, I don't want to feel like my book taste is wrong just because not everyone agrees with it. And that's what I felt. I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it wasn't good, but it was good. It was great. I loved it. I feel like it's much easier to just explain this one by reading the blurb to you rather than like trying to explain it in my own terms. The blurb sums up really nicely. You just boarded a flight to New York. There were 143 other passengers on board. What you don't know is that 30 minutes before the flight, your pilot's family was kidnapped. For his family to live, everyone on your plane must die. The only way the family will survive is if the pilot follows his orders and crashes the plane. that just, honestly, I was so excited to read this from the second I bought it. Like, the blurb alone just made my jaw drop. I was like, I can feel the suspense. An ultimate book recommendation for the summer is Leaving Time by Jodi Picoult. Jodi Picoult is my favorite author of all time. I could talk about her all day. She has so many good books. For some reason, this one stands out as like a summer read to me. I think it's just because I read it on the beach in the Dominican Republic in one day. So this is about a young girl called Jenna whose mum disappears when she's very young. She does not know what happened to her. She just kind of disappeared. And her dad is in an asylum, so her grandma is the person who looks after her. But no one seems to want to talk about what happened to her mum, where her mum is. And she decides one day that she's had enough of not knowing, like she wants an answer. Also, there's like a through plot in here about elephants, which I found infinitely interesting. Like, elephants are so cool. Final book recommendation is The Herd by Emily Edwards. I read this on like the back of the pandemic when we were just kind of coming out of it, I think. So it was a very timely read. You might have guessed already based on the title what this is about. The herd immunity. So this is about two best friends called Bryony and Elizabeth, and they are like polar opposites. They're very, very different people, but their friendship just works. That is up until they discover that they have wildly different opinions on one particular thing which they can't really just let slide. That thing being vaccination. So they have kids of a similar age, and I feel like I've said too much already. Just, you know what to expect based on the blurb, based on the title. That's all of my book recommendations. So now we can move on to my own personal to be read list for the summer. This first book I actually just picked up yesterday. It's called The Cove. This is about two families who are on holiday in Turtle Cove, which is surrounded by pristine sea and dense jungle, the perfect escape from the stresses of life and work. However, some tension starts to build. There's beef between the hotel and the locals, and the families, despite having built this like little friendship, they start to realize that not all is what it seems, and maybe they can't trust each other like they thought they could. It's like paradise gone wrong kind of idea. The next book is With This Kiss by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I believe this might be trending on TikTok right now. I'm not really on Book Talk like that, but I saw this in the shop under the everyone's talking about section. It's about a young woman called Lorelei who lives a very normal life but carries a painful burden, that burden being that whenever she kisses someone on the lips, she sees how they're going to die. So she hasn't kissed anyone since she was 18, and then she meets a guy called Grayson, and she really, really wants to kiss him. Should she not? So this is like a bit of a, I feel like this is a bit of a like cringe, like, oh, but I kind of like that sometimes. I kind of like a little cringy, romantic, like To All the Boys I Loved Before kind of vibe. Next is Do I Know You? Now, the only reason I bought this is because Jodi Picoult said it's deliciously surprising, and anything she says I will listen. Like I said, she's my favourite author. So yeah, that's why I came across this book, but I do really like the sound of it. After 5 years of marriage, they're about to have their first date. So this couple, Eliza and Graham, are having marital difficulties, and they're gifted a holiday around the time of their 5-year anniversary, and they basically decide like to spice things up and have some fun. They pretend on this holiday like they don't know each other and like they're on their first date. And it says, as their game continues, they realize this performance could be the very thing that saves their marriage. The next book on my to be read list for this summer is One True Loves. This is another one by Taylor Jenkins Reid, so I'm excited for this. High school sweethearts Emma and Jesse moved far away from home together, traveling the world, chasing every adventure, building a life of their own. 364 days after their wedding, Jesse's on a helicopter that goes missing mid-flight. Suddenly, he's gone. Years later, Emma is back in her hometown. She's grieved, she's learned to live again, she's fallen in love. At family dinner one autumn evening, she receives a phone call from Jesse. With a fiance and a husband, heartbreak lies ahead. But is there such a thing as one true love? So this poses a very interesting question. You know, a lot of people believe in the one or in soulmates. Is that true or not? I mean, I suppose it's not a matter of true or false, but this just probes the question. Okay, next we have Idol by Louise O'Neill. I am very interested in this book based on the blurb. I think it sounds like it's going to be quite juicy. This is about an influencer called Samantha Miller, and she's in like the peak of her influencing career. She's got all these different things going on, huge audience, and then she writes an essay about her sexual awakening as a teenager with her female best friend Lisa. She's never told a soul, but now she's telling the world. The essay goes viral. But then basically Lisa comes out and says that Samantha's account of the story is not necessarily accurate. It's not how she remembers it. She has a much darker recollection of that night. This is so timely with cancel culture being so prevalent in today's day and age. I feel like this could be a real page turner. And we have 2 books left here, both by, again, my favourite author, the wonderful Jodi Picoult. First is Wish You Were Here. These 2 are like 2 of her newer books. So this is about a woman called Diana, and her life is great. She's living La Vida Loca, and her boyfriend is a surgeon, and they have a trip planned, and basically Diana is convinced that they're gonna get engaged on this trip, that her boyfriend is going to propose. But then a virus hits New York City, and her boyfriend, being a surgeon, has to stay behind, but he says that she should still go on this trip. So she goes on this trip, and she's kind of completely isolated from the outside world and just has so much time alone with her thoughts, and then actually starts to wonder, is this what I want for my life, like I thought it was? And finally, we have Mad Honey. So this is by Jodi Picoult and also Jennifer Finney Boylan, double author for this book. So this is about a woman called Olivia who escapes an abusive marriage, and her son return to her hometown to take over the family business. And basically her son Asher gets a new girlfriend, and then Olivia gets a phone call to say that the girlfriend of her son is dead, and her son has been arrested on a charge of murder. She realizes that he's been keeping a whole bunch of secrets, and that we never know people as well as we think we do. I'm honestly so excited to read this one. The way Jodi Picoult writes is like incomparable to anyone else. I truly enjoy her books more than I can express with words. Like, I think she's genius. I've never read anything by Jennifer Finney Boylan, but I'm sure she's great too. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you have any summer book recommendations for me, then let me know. I had my eye on some Emily Henry books. I've never read any of her books, but I feel like those are like the epitome of a nice, easy summer read. I think the one I was looking at yesterday in the bookshop was called You and Me on Vacation. So if you've read her books and liked them, let me know. If you have read any of the books I just talked about and like them, let me know. Just comment anything. Let's chat. Thank you for watching. Wishing you a very lovely summer filled with lots of wonderful books.